Hey beer lovers, I'm Shane with I Love Virginia Beer Podcast, your home for all behind the scenes information on Virginia's wonderful world of craft brewing. Today we're coming to you from Richmond, Virginia in Scott's Edition with Ardent Craft Ales. We got Tom Sullivan, co-founder, general manager with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, Tom, I understand the Ardent in its current location has been here since 2014.
That's right.
But you actually started almost like one of those tech startups, starting out of a garage back in 2010.
A bit like that, maybe not quite as but yeah, just some friends and acquaintances. We pooled our resources and wanted to do something a little bit more serious than just making 5 gallons of beer on our kitchen stove, and found a garage that had power and water, rented from a friend down the street in the Churchill neighborhood of Richmond, and spent a little bit of money fixing up the place, and invested in a half-barrel Sabco brew system and some fermentation, and we're off and running.
So, yeah, you had, prior to that, you had some home brewing experience personally, and your partner as well, right?
Yes. My partner was a professional brewer at Cambridge Brewing Company in Boston, Kevin O'Leary, and he and I kind of got things kicked off with a bunch of other creative folks that were part of the co-op. I had taken a little bit of training at Siebel, online courses and that sort of thing, went to a couple homebrew conferences, and had been doing it for a couple years and was really, really getting into it.
What was the deciding factor that made it so you wanted to go from just brewing in your own house to starting this co-op in a garage?
Well, at the time where we were doing the co-op, really, there was only one brewery in town. Rich Brow had just gone out of business in 2008, and Legend was the one remaining person. And Legend makes great beer, and we loved going there. But we saw the opportunity just to do different, more exciting types of beers that we were interested in, and it was an open market. All our friends were seeking these sorts of beers out and trading for them, etc. So we just saw an opportunity to do it right here in Richmond.
And as I understand it, the original co-op, you guys were kind of amazed by how much it became popular. People would come down and work with you guys.
It was part of a Churchill that really hadn't sort of gentrified very much at that point, which is why we were able to get it for cheap and able to get in there. And slowly but surely, sort of restaurants opened, an amazing restaurant, an amazing bakery right there next door. And before we knew it, we brewed every Sunday. And we'd open our doors and sample our beer, what we had made with anyone who kind of wandered by, and sort of became the Sunday routine for the neighborhood and for folks just to come by, see what we were up to, see what we had to sample that day. And kind of grassroots, just week by week, sort of built over time.
Now, I know the brewery laws didn't change anything until 2012, right?
Right. So
you guys were kind of doing it under the...
We were completely amateur.
Right,
I mean,
so
we were paying out of our own pockets to do all this, and we were giving away the beer. It was just like a backyard barbecue essentially every Sunday. So
just come and have a good time, drink some beer.
Yeah, and we didn't have very much, so you got like 2-ounce pours, and people would ask questions. You get to ask questions about brewing and see it right there. And a great thing about a half barrel system is you really can show people what the process is and what it looks like and smells like, because you can see it. And unlike a professional sort of modern brewery where it's just a bunch of stainless steel, you can't really.
Right.
It's hard to understand what's going on behind the.
And the scale seems really big.
Where you could just walk up to the kettle and be like, "See, we're going to add the hops now." Here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
that sounds really fun. Now, when you opened this place in 2014, I think you were on a 15-barrel system. You on the same system now, or have you upgraded since then? Yeah,
we've got an oversized 15. We'll probably never need anything bigger than that for the size that this building allows us to grow into. But we've just the bottleneck being the fermentation, the cellar, sure. And we started with 4 30-barrel fermenters, so we would brew twice to fill one up. And then we've kind of peppered that with some more 30s and 15s. The 15s being sort of to keep the variety going here in the tap room, and then the additional 30s were just to keep up with demand as we grew outside the brewery.
That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about how you got from being a co-op in a garage to deciding to open up in a beautiful location like this.
It was a really long and complicated process, and we just took it step by step, and we wrote a business plan. We got a bunch of advice on that business plan, and we rewrote it, and then we went through the sort of learning curve of figuring out, okay, we've got a good plan, we think we've got good beer. How do we turn this into an offering where we can legally form this corporation that will ultimately become a brewery? And then convincing people to give you their money, and we have a great group of investors that helped us get here. Then you shift gears after learning all of that, and you have to learn. It doesn't matter if you know how to brew. Engineering a brewery of this size is a discipline in and of itself that we have to learn, because we couldn't afford to hire fancy consultants or anything. So, learning all the engineering pieces and the construction pieces that were necessary, the local codes and zoning and all of that, to make sure that what our plan was and what the money that we had raised was adequate to actually build the brewery. So it took every bit of that 4 years to get from our first brew in the garage to our first brew here in Ardent.
Wow. What was your biggest surprise? Both maybe a surprise and success, and maybe a surprise and, oh my gosh, we have to deal with this, in that process of getting into this kind of a production?
It's a difficult one. There are so many. There are so many learning. It was a steep learning curve. It was. One thing I would say that for anyone who's thinking about starting a brewery, really spending time on the business plan and all of the thinking before you take a single cent from somebody is worth every minute. And another way of saying that is before you're open, you've got time to solve a lot of problems and answer a lot of questions ahead of time, or at least guess at it. Once you're open, it's really difficult to find a clear space, a quiet day to solve problems. So we were really glad that we did a lot of the work up front. So when we got into the crazy startup phase, when we were just trying to figure out what this was, we had answered all the sort of simple questions about, margin and distribution contracts and things like that. And then the surprise is just how much this has grown, how much support there is in Richmond for local beer. We never would have predicted that this little town was going to support, upwards of 30 breweries, and every weekend, they keep coming, and it's been amazing.
That's awesome. You actually kind of have, by virtue of, you were mentioning earlier that a good portion of the people you have on staff actually started with you way back in 2010 or in that process of your... Yeah,
it kind of fell in somewhere in that 4 years. Some people were able to invest, and some people just kind of followed us here and started working, helped us wash kegs, paint the walls, clean the place up, and eventually we found room as we grew in the brewery for them, and kind of taught them, Kevin in particular, taught them sort of how the things work in a professional 15-barrel brewery versus a 15-gallon brewery. So we're really proud of that. It's great to be able to see those guys every day still.
That's fun. What is unique, or talk a little bit about your beer line. You have some pretty unique things. You've got some Belgian beers that you were talking about. Tell us a bit about what you like to brew, what you think you do well, what your favorites are.
Yeah, it's changed over the years. I think we started with kind of a real sort of historical focus, like the 3 core beers we did. We thought were well rooted in history and were really interesting. We thought we had done the research and made great examples. We started with a farmhouse ale, Belgian Saison, an American IPA, and steam beer, and sort of learned what the market wanted. We did a rotational version of our American IPA because we didn't have the hop contracts to make the beer we wanted all the time. So we turned that sort of problem into an opportunity and experimented a lot with hops the first couple of years, learned a ton about what different hop varieties could do. The Saison's been a constant sort of over the years. Warm summer months especially sells really well, and people come in and ask for it. And then we've always had a seasonal program where we try to get outside the box of the standard beer, so to speak, and show, our creative side. Our first summer seasonal was our Honey Ginger American Strong Ale. Nice. It was pretty different at the time. There's not many beers out there like it. We followed that up with a sweet potato and sage saison made with local sweet potatoes and sage. And then, we started playing with big stouts, obviously kind of went the other direction from some of the sweet stouts that were happening in this region and on the East Coast especially. And we did a drier stout that was, spicy, had a lot of rye in it. And that's kind of where we began. And ever since then, especially here in the tap room, we've just kind of carved out sort of, I guess, called, for lack of a better word, lanes that we try to keep rolling, and we experiment within those kind of constructs. Like, we always want to have a lager on, just because we love lagers. Our production head, Chris Rommel, is big into German lagers, so we all want to make sure he gets the opportunity to make those. He does an amazing job. And then kettle sours have always been a favorite of ours. They're certainly in the warmer months. They sell really well, so we've always got some sort of kettle sour, Gose or Berliner. And then, IPAs, especially some of the juicier, in some cases hazy, in some cases not. We're trying to push those boundaries, see what we can do with that sort of idea and how it applies to kind of what we think about hoppy beers. And then more recently, we're finally getting around to traditional sours, mixed culture fermentation out in our garage, and that's been exciting as the beers have started to turn out over the last 2 years. We've been able to sort of bottle and release a couple small quantities of those.
That's cool. You have a consistent amount of taps here, and then you have a production line as well that you're distributing out. So where can people get what beers do people have to come here to your tap room for, and what can they find out and about, and where can they find it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that we have the 3 core beers. We have our Pilsner now is core, our Saison is still core, and our rotational IPA has become IPA X. Oh, cool. Those 3 are available in draft. The IPA and Saison are available in package anywhere we're distributed, which mainly in central VA, to a lesser extent in Northern Virginia, and then in a limited extent down by the beach. We're working on Western VA and Charlottesville right now. Okay. Maybe hope to open that up later this year. And then we take whatever small quantities of whatever we're making for the tap room, and we release those 20 to 40 sixtel drops for our special accounts, good customers, and they get some of the one-offs and the experiments that we make from time to time.
You're able to get those out to restaurants and things to have on tap and stuff?
Yeah, we'll peel off 6 or 8 barrels for those.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Not a lot of places get that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of breweries in Richmond that have been doing that for a long time, rewarding their best customers with sort of specialty draft. And then, obviously with the canning craze, a lot of people are just selling direct. Right. So we're doing a little bit of everything.
That's awesome. What is it you think that makes Ardent Craft Ales unique, different from a lot of the other places?
Well, I think, kind of starting with the mission that, we're just a group of guys who are really interested in and discovering kind of what beer could be and what we could do with it has just kept us from falling into one niche or another. We like to think that we brew really well across styles and are creative to boot. So when you come to Ardent's Tap Room, you can get a variety of styles. You won't just be sort of this is really, this style they do really well, and then there's some other stuff maybe that's not as well made. We kind of hang our hat on the fact that like everything we put out across a wide variety of styles is thoughtfully made, and I don't know, it meets our standards, which we think are high. So.
Good. Yeah. You actually have this location is amazing. So you have this; it's kind of an industrial park part of Richmond, and you have a huge,
well, it used to be. It's all condos
still
now.
Has the feel.
Yeah.
And you have a huge outdoor patio beer garden.
Yeah.
How did you end up here? Like, what was the process of getting into this spot?
Well, being city guys, we wanted to be in the city. That was important to us, being central and easy to get to. We got this part of Richmond was sort of a forgotten corner, but it had the right use, so we could put a brewery here. And there was plenty of available real estate that was affordable. Some, for instance, this building had not been occupied for, a dozen years.
Wow.
So in looking around, we thought, hey, this is perfect. It's near the highway, it's near the baseball diamond, it's not too far from the Fan or downtown. Let's find a building there. And there's one other point. Why the city? We kind of just got lucky. We couldn't have predicted what happened here in Scott's Addition. We just needed the use. We needed an affordable location, and we also got hooked up with a developer who specialized in this area and really was willing to work with us and believed in our project. So kind of put all these things together, and we landed here in Scott's Addition.
That's awesome. What is it that you want our listeners? What do you want them to know at home about why they should come down here? Because we got listeners that come from all over the state. Why coming down to Richmond and visiting Ardent Craft Ales?
I think first thing is that just getting people to Richmond certainly is a great trip. There's something here for everybody. There's a great variety of breweries doing lots of awesome work, both big and small. So that should hopefully get you to the city. And then once you're here, I think there's a lot of reasons to come see us and check us out. We've got beautiful patio and tap room. We pride ourselves on service and being education and curiosity being part of our mission. We always make sure that the staffs were well educated, can answer any questions about coming to Ardent. And it's just a real relaxed vibe. No TVs, no BS. It's all about the beer here. Like I said, we think we've got a little bit of something in terms of beer for any palate, any interest. And then we've got a nice place to hang out. Bring your dog, bring your kids. It's family friendly, and I don't know. We think the total experience is pretty great.
Awesome. Do you guys do live music and things like that?
No, we don't. No live music. Wow. We have music, of course, for the ambience, but we don't want it to be obtrusive. We want this to be a place that you can come with a friend and have a conversation and not be distracted and enjoy yourself.
Just a true chill environment.
Yeah.
I love it.
Enjoy a beer and have a conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being on the show today. Coming to you from Scott's Addition in Richmond, Virginia. This is Ardent Craft Ales. Come on down and enjoy a beer. Don't forget to go to ilovevirginiabeer.com where you can get hats with a bottle opener, t-shirts, and all sorts of other gear. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.